seeing for myself.
American Public University. Ready when you are.
Here's a story for you. There is a Belarusian self-styled sex coach in a Bangkok jail right now who says she is, and I quote her here, the only witness and the missing link in the connection between Russia and the U.S. elections. 21-year-old Anastasia Vashukevich claims to have audio recordings that can link the Kremlin to the Trump campaign. She says she fears for her life if she gets sent back to Russia, so she's offering to give the alleged evidence to the U.S. government in return for asylum. Her story might seem completely implausible were it not for this. Footage that Vashukevich shared in August 2016 of her on a yacht with Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, former business associate of Paul Manafort. That's just one of the stories swirling around the Russian investigation. It reads like a spy novel. Here to help unpack them all, former FBI double agent Naveed Jamali, who worked against Russian intelligence gathering efforts in the U.S., Atlantic writer Julia Yaffe, who has written and reported extensively on Russia, and intelligence expert Malcolm Nance, who wrote The Plot to Hack America about Russia's election interference. And Julia, let me start with you. This story, I first saw it and I was like, oh, okay, there is a Russian sex coach in a Thai jail who says that she needs asylum in the U.S. so she can spill the beans about Oleg Deripaska, a Kremlin oligarch, and the American election. And I thought, well, that seems unlikely. And then, of course, there's a video, there's footage in which it doesn't, maybe not that unlikely or implausible. What do you make of it?
Well, and that's when you realized, oh, right, we're talking about Russia, so of course it's totally plausible. Let's just be clear for our viewers, she's not a sex coach, she is a professional escort. And the way all of this came to light is Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny released a YouTube video that everybody should go see. It has English subtitles. It's about a half-hour long, about these escorts who came to troll his campaign offices, you know, because he's trying to undermine Putin's authority. They looked into who these escorts, these prostitutes were, and it turned out that one of them, Nastya Rybka, which her last name means little fish, or like her moniker, was a frequent companion of Oleg Deripaska, who we know was in frequent communication with Paul Manafort's former deputy. And Paul Manafort, as we reported in The Atlantic, Paul Manafort, while being $19 million in debt to Deripaska, was working for the Trump campaign for free, and through intermediaries trying to make sure that Oleg Deripaska saw what a good job he was doing on the Trump campaign. And this Russian escort posts video of Deripaska talking about the U.S. election and various U.S. officials with a very important Kremlin foreign policy aide who has been around since the 90s and is very, very powerful and very close to Vladimir Putin.
Let me make sure I'm going to. I know. This is hard, but it's
very simple.
I know,
yeah.
We're like 400 pages into a Russian novel where Americans, I think, are just like struggling with all the names. So let me just make sure I understood the last part correctly.
Yes.
The video that was posted was Deripaska. Again, Deripaska is this oligarch. He's the one. I want to read this email. This is Manafort. The first thing he does when he gets his job, he says, "How do we use to get whole? Has OVD operation seen?" Meaning Oleg Vladimirovich Deripaska. Like, this guy is a very important person in Paul Manafort's life. He owes him millions of dollars. This man, what you're saying is that the video that was posted is this man talking to a Russian official about the American election.
Right, on his own private yacht, and Nastya, this Anastasia, is this Belarusian escort, is filming all this and putting this onto her open access Instagram. And Navalny just happened to notice it and go watch the video. It's fantastic. It will explain everything.
So, Malcolm, what do you make of this?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's only two things that can happen here. It can either be the truth, which is a little implausible, but you know, we've already seen so many amazing and crazy things today that I'm almost ready to believe anything. But on the other hand, what we can find is that she may believe that she's being truthful about this, and she may actually have recorded some of this stuff. But by about now, Russian Technical Collection from their internal security would have rolled this up, and when it could be let out as a trap to us, so that when we actually go after this, or some news agency goes after this, and they get those recordings, boom, it's Oleg Deripaska playing with puppies, and we look like fools.
I think Malcolm brings up a very important point. Nastya Rybka, this, I don't know how you want it, this Russian escort, what she's saying may not be true. She, I'm sure, has lots of video of Oleg Deripaska, and I'm sure she's very rationally scared for her life to go back to Russia, but that doesn't mean that she has the missing link. I mean, she may or may not.
No,
but it could just be because Deripaska is a scary guy. There's a reason that he has not been given visas to the U.S., that the Russian government has to, because of his connections to organized crime, the Russian government has to issue him a diplomatic passport so he can come and visit here. So I think she's more scared of Deripaska than the Kremlin.
Who exactly would she be shopping this to? Donald Trump?
Well,
that's the U.S. government.
Well, right now she seems to be shopping it. Yeah, right. I mean, that's the funny thing. That's a great point, and she's saying she needs asylum in the U.S. I had the same thought. Like, if you think the U.S. government is going to be like, yes, please, we want to see the tape, maybe you've got another thing coming. But Naveed, do you think she has a case? She says, "I'm scared for my life." Is that a legitimate concern?
I think it is. I mean, we just heard today that there was a former Russian GRU officer who was traded in a spy swap, who has come quite ill, and his wife has come quite ill in the UK. So it's not beyond the pale. I do kind of want to hedge this a bit. When you're talking about people, when you're talking about human operations, this is exactly what a case officer, someone like Steele would have to do. You have to look at the individual. Now, just because someone is saying something, that, from an intelligence assessment standpoint, you can say with high confidence, this person, in fact, did say something to me, or did say this to me. But the substance, the facts behind that may not be able to easily be ascertained. So it sounds confusing. You can have high confidence that someone did, in fact, say this, but low confidence in what they were saying. So
let's just be clear, though, just on this story. She is talking to reporters behind a cage in a Thai jail. Right. So there's no question about what she's saying. Literally, there are American reporters standing in a Thai jail where she is saying to them, this is what I have. I need asylum in the U.S. I totally agree that that doesn't mean that what she's saying is truthful, or in Julia's case, she may not have what she has. But what we do know is, she definitely was on a boat with Oleg Deripaska at one point and definitely did post video of stuff he was talking about.
And Chris, to that point, what we're seeing here is it's not just one thing, it's two things. And look, what I know about the Russians, what I know about Russian intelligence, they're like burglars looking in a car every night. Every night they're looking for weakness. And they're going to go to that car where someone has left their wallet or their keys in it. That's what the Trump campaign and the Trump orbit represents. It just represents a weakness, a path in for Russian intelligence to come in. And I have to say, when you start seeing 5, 10 of these stories coming out, there's something to it. It may not be this specific thing, but there clearly is something here. It's not just a nothingbird.
Malcolm, you're nodding your head in agreement.
Yeah. But, you have to understand something, the bizarre nature of this, because there are these, Deripaska lives in this Wild West sort of world where, he has his own set of rules, even though he's a Russian, he's an oligarch, he's an associate of Putin. And these are the sort of things that can come out in between the cracks. But if we're going to talk about this like a James Bond movie or a spy story, we have to remember what eventually happens to these women in Bond films, right? Like From Russia with Love, or, they end up dead. And it would not be beyond the pale for Deripaska to just make sure that she gets shanked in that prison.
Julia, right. There's this, to reference something that Naveed just said, that there's this crazy story about the former GRU officer who was spying for Britain, who was part of the prisoner swap, the famous Anna Chapman prisoner swap, in which, we caught the Russian spy who was here living a life as an American, got sent back to Russia. One of the people that came back out to the West was someone who had spied for the British and who was living in England, and is found on a bench in the last few days with a woman. The two of them dosed on something, apparently.
And now critically ill in a hospital.
Critically ill in a hospital.
I mean, yeah, we've seen this story before, and we've also seen it here in Washington, D.C. The Russians don't let, Vladimir Putin respects his enemies, but he hates traitors. And he has often said this, that an enemy or an adversary is a respectable thing. There's a set of rules to govern that, but traitors need to die, essentially. And I have a feeling that, linking this back to the Russian escort, I think she is scared out of her mind and she's afraid for her life with good reason. And she is dangling this to the Americans saying, please save me, I'm gonna die.
Well, Naveed Jamali, Julia Yaffe, and Malcolm Nance, thanks for joining us. We will see what happens next. Before I go, exciting news, the paperback version of my latest book, A Colony in a Nation, comes out tomorrow. It's about race and policing and democracy. Plus, there is a brand new afterword that I wrote about Donald Trump and his rhetoric of law and order, which, given the day's news, looks more and more relevant. That is all into this evening. The Rachel Maddow Show starts right now. Good evening, Rachel.
When do you find the time, Chris Hayes? When do you find the time? You're like, oh, and by the way, I wrote a whole new afterword
running
to my
on
book.
empty. I am running on empty.
Well done, my friend. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thanks to you at home for joining us this hour. Happy Monday. Busy day today after a busy weekend of news as well. Jane Mayer has just posted a huge story at The New Yorker that's about Christopher Steele, the author of the Trump-Russia dossier, which has led to so much controversy and so much consternation in the year or so since it was first published by BuzzFeed News. Jane Mayer, I got to tell you, she's got like a gazillion separate scoops in this one piece, including her reporting